the whole girly Twilight vampires. There was a vampire that still made the title vampire cool, dark, gritty, and it was from the genius and creative mind of Josh Whedon. And as you can see right here, I'm talking about Angel. Angel was pretty much portrayed by the actor David Boreanaz, who portrayed Angel very well, very good. And let me tell you, I loved this show. This was another show, once again, a spin-off show from another show, basically. And I got tongue-tied by saying that, but pretty much it was. It was a spin-off from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And once again, this show ran from 1999. It first aired October 5th, 1999 to, I believe, May 19th, 2004. Thanks, bro. It had 5 seasons, over 100 episodes, and pretty much this show really told a very good show. That, once again, a character that is pretty much kind of trying to redeem himself, or redemption in a way. Okay? So let me explain a little bit about the character Angel. Angel was a human, of course. You know, he had to be a human at one point. He's a vampire, but he was a human. He grew up in Ireland. He's from Ireland, and the character, he was born in the 18th century of Ireland, and he pretty much, his dad really didn't see, anything in, because Angel he was kind of like that type of guy that, his nightlife took over his date. He would go all night, drink at pubs and things like that, and then come back in the morning and just wallow away his life in a way. His father didn't like that. However, one night, he was at a pub, a bar, however you want to call it. I'm saying pub for all my British listeners out there. And he met a girl, a blonde, a very beautiful blonde, played by the very talented and very beautiful Julia Benz. Her name was Darla. Darla had a secret. She was a vampire. And Darla turned Angel. He arose from the grave, reborn, now soulless, immortal vampire. And he became probably one of the most badass vampires in all of Europe. His acts of evil were pretty much deadly and legendary. People knew of him. Him and Darla would just create just ooze of chaos. And one night, Darla decides to bring Angel a gift. A girl. Before that, Angel literally killed his parent, his whole family. He killed his sister, his mom, and his dad. His dad was the last to die because he wanted to savor that one. Later on, Darla gave Angel a gift, a girl, a young girl. And this young girl happened to be a gypsy. And in doing so, by killing the gypsy girl's family punished Angel. And what they did, which is always was cool at the time, because nobody's ever done that really. They basically punished him by restoring his soul. So basically, Angel is overwhelmed by the guilt of all the people he's killed as a vampire. And Darla senses that. It was almost like, you ever, like, for you got a bad smell on you. You haven't washed in a while and you smell yourself and you're like, oh, like, ew, I got to take a shower. That's pretty much how Angel regaining his soul was like to another vampire, especially Darla. It was like she lost her boy toy, her man, and she nearly killed him herself. So basically, Angel leaves. He leaves Ireland, and he pretty much spends most of his time in America. He moved to America, stayed seclusive, never really talking to many people. They later on in the the fourth or fifth season, they started to say that Angel worked for the government as, like, he was almost like Steve Rogers in a way. They found the government knew about him being a vampire, so they sent him on a secret mission during World War II. But during that time, but that's going ahead of it. I'm sorry, just really like talking about this. Went ahead of myself, but later on, Angel pretty much arrives in a town called Sunnydale, and that is where he meets another beautiful blonde, and her name was Buffy. And she, not only is she special, she was a slayer. So you got a vampire and a slayer. Now, in the beginning, they pretty much were, Buffy was told to kill Angel, but Angel, being that kind of what he is, he knew about her, and later on, these two pretty much fell in love, and that was good for Angel. But however, another thing that pretty much was cool that Josh Whedon did was, for the curse, Angel could not pretty much experience happiness or bliss and true happiness. And basically bottom line, that he couldn't have sex, because if he had sex, he would revert back to Angelus, his evil ways. And that happened a couple of times in Buffy, where he pretty much was a cast member, and Buffy had to kill him. He was sent to hell. He was brought back, and during, I believe, the season 3 finale of Buffy, Angel leaves Sunnydale, and he goes to LA to continue his atonement, but without Buffy. And that's where the character we really started to see more of the character, and the character really broadened out in his own show. And of course, we had some familiar characters with new characters. Angel became like an avatar, an advent for these entities called the powers that be. And one of their agents, by the name of a character known as Doyle, was a half-demon who gets these visions that pretty much would show Angel where he would need to go to help this person. He became pretty much like a vampire private eye, in a way. And him and Doyle would really work together, and later on, even before that, he met up again with another character, Charisma Carpenter's character, who was known as Cordelia. And the trio made a pretty good team in the first season, before Doyle died and passed the visions on to Cordelia. But over the seasons, the show stayed its great tone of being gritty, dark, having good story development, good character development, introducing new characters, and really showcasing who these characters were. And Angel really flourished, and that was something that I really enjoyed about this show. It really had a good variety of great storytelling, good character development. Like I said, David Boreanaz did a great job as Angel. He he really came off like, yo, does this guy ever smile? It just sometimes really came off that way. But I really enjoyed the show, and I enjoyed the character. Dark Horse actually continues the show kind of in comics now, in comic form. So if anybody wants to know or keep up with Angel, yeah, you could turn to the comics. Dark Horse does it. Um, the over the show, we saw Angel actually, him and Darla got back together at one point and had a baby, and the baby turned out to be not a vampire but human. And once again, another like twist that Josh Whedon threw. And Darla killed herself, staked her own self to save, her Connor. That was the name of his son. Unfortunately, Connor was kidnapped by an ancient enemy of Angel's called Holtz, and he was taken to this. He grew up in this demon world, came back, wanted to kill his father, and it flourished from there. Like I said, we saw a lot of characters come and go, but it was good nonetheless. And that was just the greatest thing about Angel. The great storytelling, the great character development, and you just saw a difference in characters. Like, there may be one character that was more like the comic relief of the show. There was one character that, kept the team, the group in line. The main character stayed always focused on his redemption. The powers that be actually said once Angel would succeed in his duties, his reward would be his humanity. However, the series ended on a cliffhanger, which still to this day bothers me completely. And there was supposed to be talks of the show, they were going to end it in a movie, and everybody was willing to do it, but unfortunately, Mr. Boreanaz now is on a show called Bones, which he pretty much is the producer on there. So he doesn't really, I guess, don't have too much time anymore. But if he ever came back just to do that movie, that'd be great. I would love it. But this was during the time when vampires were still dark, cool, dangerous, and not all glistening in the sunlight and things like that. When Angel got in the sunlight, he burnt. When he touched a cross, it hurt him. All the things that you think a vampire would be hurt by, it hurt Angel. Even though he had his soul, it hurt him. But he never glistered in the sunlight or anything like that. He fell in love, yes, but the way Josh Whedon and them did the stories for that stuff came off like it was magic to me. That's just my opinion. But that was another time, another era. Now we get stuff like what you see now, where it's like vampires are not even cool anymore, or that's how it is. But what you gonna do, But other than that, guys, what are your thoughts on Angel? Character, everything. As always, this is Mount Vernon Kid, saying peace, one love, stay tuned. Thank you for listening once again. This is Characters, Why I Liked Them. Stay tuned next week, will I return with the next two characters.